And before I say anything else, I just want to acknowledge Dean. 48 years ago, when I really didn't have a clear idea of what direction I was going to go with my life, and I was frustrated and about 38 pounds heavier than I am now and feeling sorry for myself, I never dreamed that I'd be able to have the privilege to talk to all of you like this or do half the things I'm doing today. It would seem impossible. But it's amazing what little step at a time can do. And Dean is such a, I just want you to know how much he cares about you. I think I've been able to do this for 48 years and reached over 1 billion people, starting from nothing, because I really love people. I want to over-deliver. And this week here, we're here to really give you an experience of what's possible, about how you could actually create some freedom in your life, how you could do some things that are really meaningful. And that it doesn't matter where you are, if you think you have nothing to share. We all have some problems that we've solved, some challenge, or we know somebody who has. But all this really came about because Dean listened to my stuff years ago and really applied it and grew. And one day somebody called me up, and I used to have these infomercials years ago. Anybody ever seen one of these old infomercials that I was in? A few of you maybe. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was like every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day, somewhere in North America. It was ridiculous. But what I hated was I was in infomercials. I did it because I didn't want to just go do speeches at a company for an hour. I wanted to reach people, and I wanted to bring them into my events and have multiple days where I could go deep with them. And so, long story shortened, but I hated infomercials because it was like spray on hair and fake diamonds and all these other silly things, right? But it was the only way I could reach people. And it worked, but I hated when people say, "Oh, aren't you that infomercial guy?" I mean, I hated that. And so I tell you this because years later, I wasn't involved with that anymore. My career had grown. And a mutual friend of ours, Dean and I, both reached out to me and said, "I want you to meet this guy, Dean Graziosi." And I was like, "Isn't that infomercial guy?" The very thing I didn't want anybody to say to me, I thought of, because that's the negative association, because I'd seen a few of those, and I was like, "Okay, I'll meet him." And then he came to one of my events, and we went out for lunch, and we ended up extending the lunch by an extra 30, 40 minutes because I just felt he was a brother on the path. And the reason I felt a brother is nobody cares more. And this man, you have no idea what he's done to pour into this. We're partners in this, and I'm certainly contributing my part, but he obsesses. And what I love is I obsess. I mean, we don't ever take anything for granted. It doesn't matter this program's free. We're here to make sure you have an experience that's transformative if you want it, and show you how to go to the next level. So I just want to acknowledge Dean. He's become a dear friend. I've been doing this 48 years. He's been doing this 28 years. Between us, we figured this out the other day, 76 years of experience. But we give him a big hand for what he's putting on here today. He's an amazing guy. I know you're from all over the world, literally, and I'm glad you're here because these are interesting times. Isn't that what the Chinese call it? Interesting times. The idea of crisis is, when people feel fear and there's opportunity. And you think about the last few years, last 4 or 5 years, we went through COVID where the whole world was shut down and our whole lives were completely disrupted, and so many people lived in fear, unfortunately. And then we get out of that and we had massive inflation, at least here in the United States. Most countries did. And now we've been in a position where there's all this uncertainty. We have a president some people love, some people hate. I'm an independent. I'm not here to tell you what to believe either way. But what's interesting is, if you listen to the media, you think it's the end of the universe. The world is ending. When in reality, we're in pretty damn good times. Inflation just hit the lowest level in America it's had in more than 4 years. Everybody a few weeks ago was saying, "Oh, the stock market lost $13 trillion. The end of the universe is over." And that was 4 weeks ago, and it's already back higher than it was before. We all have different seasons of our life. I'm sure you've been in winter at times. I sure have been. Times when it felt like, man, nothing works. Nothing's gonna work, like the dark night of the soul. Who can relate? Who's had some nights or days like this in your life, right? But the beautiful thing about life, the universe, or God, however you want to call it, is it has seasons, and winter's never forever. No matter how dark it seems, as corny as it sounds, it's darkest before the dawn. There's a reason phrases like that get overused, because they're true. It's like, what follows winter? Springtime, where all of a sudden everything grows and it's easier and people are optimistic and things shift. And that, I'm not saying that we're already in springtime as a culture, but we're certainly moving in that direction. I think we've been through some of the toughest winters we can imagine. That doesn't mean there won't be new challenges ahead. And I think if you can do well in winter, you'll do well for the rest of your life. I started my first business in this industry when I was just 17. No one showed up. It was free. I couldn't get anybody to even show up for the program. But because I started during a tough time, I learned to get stronger and stronger. And you build things just a little bit at a time until you can get to something quite amazing. But I want to tell you, spring is around the corner. But you don't have to wait for springtime. It could be springtime for you. I live here in Palm Beach, Florida, rather. And, this is wintertime right now. It's kind of beautiful. It's 78 degrees, and it's pretty awesome. So you don't have to live like everybody else, especially if you decide that you want to find something you believe in that you want to share with the world, even at a small scale, even part-time, and then grow it, because the opportunity today is unlike any other time. I remember Dean and I were together, and we both, neither one of us play golf. We play golf like once a year. We play 6 holes. We find the favorite holes to play. We're not really very patient for 18 holes, he and I. And we end up talking the whole time. And we were on this golf course, and we were both talking about how much the world has changed and how grateful we are that somehow we stumbled across this idea of self-development, self-education, and that we used it and we've transformed ourselves and we've helped so many other people, and that we got to make something we love what we live for, that it's not only a career, it's our calling, and that we've done well economically, and we have freedom for our families, and we're talking back and forth and saying, gosh, we help so many people. I wish we could get more people in this business, because, man, can you imagine, when we started out, you had to walk uphill both ways through the snow, 10 miles. But it's really true. The industry was a tiny industry when I started out, especially. I mean, in order to do a seminar, I had to go, write a brochure. There was no AI that could do it for me in 3 minutes and give me 20 examples and even do the visuals. I had to write the brochures over several days. Then I had to go get somebody to do the mock-up of it, and that took about a week or two and cost $1,000. And then you had to print those things, and they were at least $1.50 each. And then if you're going to send them to 20,000 people, that was going to be like $25,000, and you had to pay for the stamps, and then you had to go rent a room. And now, you make a brochure like this with an AI. We built our Gigi, the best of both of what we do. You're going to get to use it this week. And it's like in minutes, seconds, do things that took months. And now, we don't have to spend the money to mail something. It was like, what the hell are you talking about? We got email, we got text. We have full motion video. We don't have to go to a facility to do it. I'm able to talk to you all around the world right now. And we got almost 1 million people here. My seminars have changed. They went to 10,000 and 20,000 people. It's the biggest you could imagine. Now my biggest seminars, like 1.3 million people I do every year for 4 days. So that's how technology has changed the game, and that's why we started creating this. And I'm proud to tell you, we've had over 250,000 people start businesses or take their business to the next level through the processes we taught. And it's been a dream. So I'm excited to share with you. So the question I want to answer for you, first of all, I want to ask you, how many of you already have a business and you're looking to add some digital products to it as another source of income? I'm curious. Make a little noise if you have that. Okay. How many of you out there currently are working for someone else, but you haven't made the dive yet, but you really would love to at least have a part-time income on the side of someone or want to start a new business? And how many of you are like all in? You're starting a new business right now, or you're about to and you're committed to it? I'm curious, how many of that does? Okay, that's really great. Well, everything you want to achieve can happen, but it takes one skill. In fact, I'm writing a book on this right now. It's called The Power of Decisions. I was working on it yesterday. I wrote the first chapter. And I look at my life and I say, why am I here? And the answer is decisions, not conditions. I had pretty lousy conditions. I grew up in a really tough environment. We had no money. At times we had no money for food. But there were certain things along the way that I was fortunate enough or had the grace to decide that, God, the universe, and then I did my part too, that led me in a direction. It didn't happen overnight. This is not a let's get rich quick scheme. Like tomorrow you're going to make $10 million. It doesn't work that way. But what it does work is if you learn to do a little thing and you do it a little better, because of technology, you can scale things now You can take something that before you were in the library trying to do for free and end up with, one of our clients says 3,000 to 5,000 people a month right now. And she was like trying to talk to 30 people for free in the library, and very few people were listening. That's what technology can provide for us today. But the decisions were really important. So I'll just take you back for a second to give you kind of a background, if I may, and then give you the content about what decisions can change your life. Because I want to share with you, there's 3 decisions you're making every moment of your life. You're even making them right now. And as I walk you through it, you can tell me whether you think it's true or not. You'll experience it. And if you make any of these decisions slightly differently, your whole life changes. So let me tell you the background. When I was growing up, I had 4 different fathers. One day I said to my mom, I'm confused, right? and we were totally broke. My fathers were good men, but they managed to lose their jobs, every one of them at different stages, and we had no money, and we had food stamps, so we were barely surviving. And I remember one particular Thanksgiving when I was 11 years old, this is what really changed my life, was we had no money, no food. When I say no food, we had crackers and peanut butter. When everyone else is having a Thanksgiving dinner, turkey and the whole 9 yards, it was pretty depressing. And my mom and dad were angry at each other. My mom was telling my dad what he hadn't provided for my family, and my dad was saying other things you can't take back to my mother. And I have a younger brother, younger sister, 5 and 7 years younger, and so I'm trying to keep them so they don't hear this conversation. And then what changed my life? I knock at the door. I open the door, and this giant guy is standing there, and he's got a bag of groceries in each hand, and then he had an uncooked frozen turkey on the ground in an empty pot. And he said, is your father home? And I said, just one moment, right? And I ran to get my dad. My mom had slammed the door on him, on the bedroom door, and my dad was banging on the door, yelling at her. And I said, Dad, there's someone at the door for you. He goes, you answer it. I said, I answered it. He goes, who is it? I said, I don't know. He said, he has to talk to you. And then inside, it was like Christmas morning. I was so excited to see my father. I thought this is going to be the most beautiful day of our lives. And my dad opened the door and saw the guy, and he was not happy. And I couldn't believe it. It was like that split second that he stayed angry. And my father said, we don't accept charity. And he went to slam the door on the guy. But the guy had the groceries, and he kind of leaned in, so it hit his shoulder, and the door bounced off, which made my dad even madder. And the guy said, sir, I'm just the delivery guy. He said, someone knows you're having a tough time. Everyone has tough times, and they want you to have a beautiful Thanksgiving. My father said, we don't take charity, and went to do it again. But this time, because he leaned in, his foot hit the door now too, and it bounced up and up again. And then the man, he was just the delivery guy. And the man was really nice. He didn't say this meanly, but I thought my father was going to punch him. He looked and saw me, and he said, sir, he said, please don't make your family suffer because of your ego. And I'll never forget the veins in the side of my father's neck and the rage in his, I thought he was going to punch the guy in the face. And all of a sudden, my dad's shoulders just dropped. He took the groceries, he put them on the table, and he slammed the door and didn't even say thank you. I was shocked. I couldn't understand it. Why isn't he happy? I mean, there's food, for God's sakes. What a concept, right? And shortly thereafter, my father left our family. And he's the man who adopted me. I carry his last name, Robbins. He's now passed away. I love him dearly. But it was I thought, the worst day of my life. But because there was so much pain and I couldn't understand it, I obsessed about it. Like, why did he leave? What happened here? And gradually, I started to evolve an understanding. And it comes down to our life is controlled by our decisions. Think for a moment. Can you think of something you made a decision about 5 or 10 years ago? It could have been something simple, like where to go to school, or what to do for a living, where to live, who to spend time with, who to fall in love with, who to marry, whether you're going to have kids or not. How many of you can think of a decision you made 5 or 10 years ago that if you made a different decision, your life would be radically different today? I don't know better or worse, but radically different. How many can think of a decision that completely changed your life? Say aye.